Welcome back to the Permission to Thrive docuseries, everyone. I'm Dr. Kellee Rutley. I'm your host, and this is the Wealth Builder edition of Permission to Thrive. And today I'm interviewing one of my favorite people in business and in life, Natalie Layvlock. Natalie, welcome.
Thank you, Kellee. I appreciate that so much.
So people might be thinking, I just got to be in integrity here right now, because people are like, oh, she says that about everyone. Here's the deal. Natalie actually created the curriculum for our coaches training program. So do I actually know Natalie? Yeah, I do. She's actually worked very closely with myself and our coaches to create an amazing 12-month curriculum to train them up to coach our clients. So I just felt like I needed to say that because people are like, you always say my favorite.
Am I your favorite, Kellee? No, I'm your favorite. No.
Yeah. Well, it's like, do you really know each other? Yes, we do.
Yes.
All right. So Natalie, welcome again. Natalie Layvlock is an international faith-based business advisor, speaker, author, and program development specialist. And her talk today is how taking a leap of faith can lead to a business and a life you love. All right, Natalie. So I would love to hear from you, first of all, before we get started, because this is the Wealth Builder edition. We take a holistic approach to building a life you love. What does being wealthy, or what does the word wealth mean to you?
That is so good. You went for the $1 million question right off the bat.
Let's just roll. Yeah.
Let's just roll with it, right? So for me, true wealth it's not just about money. Wealth shows up in our view of life. It shows up in our families, in our relationships. It does show up in our finances. It also shows up in our health, right? There's every aspect of our life and our businesses are touched by wealth or lack, right? And so I think, one of the important things for us, and why I really like the fact that you're taking a comprehensive look at this, is because in today's world, it's so easy for things to get out of balance and for things to get out of whack, right? And so while we may be having massive success in one area, we may be feeling like we have massive lack in another area. And I don't think that necessarily, everything is balanced all the time. There's a give and take and an ebb and flow to life. And things when things really go awry and get way off kilter, man, we got to get that corrected.
Yeah. One of the questions that I just asked a group that I was jumping into coach today was to define what wealth means to you. And I shared with them that when you really write out what wealth means to me, you will uncover and uproot your particular island or islands of pathology, which means the island that you're ignoring, the island that you're pretending not to notice. So that, and for many people who jump in here to the Wealth Builder edition, they're going to automatically see the word wealth and think cash and money. And so we do want to talk about that. At the same time, we want you to keep in mind that, the word wealth is very personal to everyone, and we get to not ignore any aspect of it. So what I want to hear from you, because I know this about you, but our audience doesn't, is what did you used to do before you became a faith-based business coach? And what are you doing now?
So before I got into business coaching, I actually, my area of expertise, my training, I'm a registered nurse. I have a master's degree in nursing education. I've taught at the collegiate level. I designed training programs and trained doctors and nurses at the bedside for almost 20 years. I built a business within the hospital. So that's kind of where I cut my business teeth. Was I was an intrapreneur before I was an entrepreneur. So that's how it all got started. I spent, like I said, almost 20 years doing that. And I really, really loved what I did. And at the same time, there was this pivotal moment where God showed me. He actually gave me a blessing. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you the opportunity to climb that corporate ladder and go even higher and move into management, or you can chase your dream, follow what you feel like I'm calling you to, and take a leap of faith. And so in that moment, I had a decision to make. And Kellee, those moments, those forks in the road, those are hard decisions, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I just remember it was actually Labor Day weekend. I think it's kind of funny. It was Labor Day weekend, and I'm facing this choice. Like, do I want to go into management, or do I want to like do this crazy thing and, go follow God, right? Because that doesn't sound crazy at all to anyone, no matter how faithful you are, right? So I'm trying to make this decision, and it's Labor Day weekend, and I'm fasting and I'm praying, and I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? And if I make the wrong decision, if I decide to follow you on this thing, like, we're going to lose our house and my kids are going to go hungry. And, you know, my husband's a farmer, and like, are we going to lose the farm? Like, I feel like we're going to lose everything, because I'm walking away and giving up everything the world says is good. I'm giving up a steady career. I'm giving up a steady paycheck. I'm giving up retirement. I'm giving up insurance. Like, how do you make it today with no retirement, no insurance, no any of that kind of stuff, right? And I've got these 3 little boys at home, and they're like fully dependent on their mama. How do you do that? I mean, like, I felt like I was in labor that whole weekend. Like, it was agonizing. It was excruciating. If you can imagine unmedicated labor, some of your viewers will know exactly what I'm talking about. But it was absolutely excruciating trying to make that decision. And, I finally just had to come to that point where I was like, God's blessed me with 2 good decisions. I can't make a wrong decision. These are 2 good decisions. And if I make a decision and it doesn't go the way I wanted, if all of these things do happen, will it still have been worth it? Am I willing to take all the chips on the table and go all in to follow God in what I think He's calling me to do? And I got to the point, Kellee, where I was finally like, you know what? If I take this leap and I fall, there is no safer place on this earth than falling into the arms of my loving Creator. Because it is not His desire for me to be hurt. It is not His desire for my family to be destroyed. It is not His desire for, the worst of the worst to the worst to happen. And so no matter what, even if what feels really bad to me does happen, He's got a plan for it. And He's going to bring us through the other side. And so the safest place I can be is in His arms.
Wow.
And that's how I made the decision.
Okay. Woo. All right. I'm just like, listen. So if I get quiet, guys, they're like, that's because I'm just taking it in, just soaking it in. What was it like when you were, because I think I met you around the time when you were maybe straddling both worlds. Like, that's that. I've been there, right? When I had, my chiropractic brick and mortar practice, and I was doing online coaching, health coaching and online business coaching with health coaches. It was like I had 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. And that was probably the most stressful time, right? It was like that. I didn't want to make I didn't want to choose one or the other. I wanted to stay in both, because like I didn't trust like going all in. You said going all in. So were you ever at a point where you had one foot in each
Oh
world?
yeah. Oh yeah.
What
I
was that like?
actually had one foot in both worlds for a few years because that business that was built at the hospital, I trained 7 people to take my place
Oh my
before I got out of there.
God.
Like I would get one trained up
Uh-huh.
and they'd find a different job. I'd get one trained up and they'd go over here and decide to do something different. I'd get one trained up and then they'd decide to go back to school. I get one trained up and then something would happen in their family. I trained 7 different people to take my place. And unfortunately, the reality of it was that I worked in a very small rural hospital. And so access to people with my level of expertise and my certifications and training and things like that, they're hard to come by,
Yeah.
you know? So it took a long time. It took several years with one foot in each one. It really didn't get too intense till right at the end when my business was really taking off. And I was like, this is my future. And come on, we got to just shake this somehow, you know? And fortunately, I was able to find the person that came in and took over. Because I didn't want that program to fall through for the patients.
Right.
There's nobody else around that offers that particular type of service. And I just did not want to leave the patients high and dry. And so we finally got somebody in there, got her trained up to take over. And then I was able to do my coaching full time and
Okay. And
wonderful.
that sounds like an amazing transition. And what was it like? Because I really know our audience needs to hear about this. What was it like to let go of a paycheck, a consistent, regular paycheck, to taking the leap of faith to owning your own business and being 100% responsible for paying yourself?
Yeah. So I won't lie. It was scary. It was terrifying. Like the numbers did not make sense. I didn't know how this was going to work. And here's the thing I had a little bit of peace in though, Kelly. You and I had a mutual mentor at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
this mentor said, sometimes you just got to let your day job fuel your dream job. And so every week when I had that paycheck, I was using it to keep my family afloat while I was building the business. And everything I was making from the business was going back into building the business, building the business, building the business. And so when it came time to make that final separation, like it's terrifying to let go of that. And at the same time, I'm like, the business is starting to make money. We're not going to go broke. It's not going to be like the disaster that I thought it was in the beginning. And I still had that sense of freedom and excitement for what was coming in the future.
Mm. Hmm. Okay, that's really cool. And how was the farming industry and the farming business at that time when you made your big leap, took your big leap of faith?
So my husband is a serial entrepreneur. He is a farmer. He also has a commercial metal roofs coatings business. And like he's been an entrepreneur. I don't know that he's had a job since college. And so he's the one the whole time is like, Natalie, would you just let the hospital go and do this other thing? Like, when are you going to let it go and focus on this? And so he was pushing me the whole time. He's probably one of my greatest supports and I hope he's not offended if he ever hears this, one of my greatest cheerleaders
Yeah.
in chasing my dream. And I know that not everybody has that experience. Not everybody has that person backing them in their corner. And so I don't take him for granted for a single second. I know what a blessing that was and how much it helped me and continues to help me go and grow and do the things that I want to do. And I have I'll just be honest, the privilege to do
Mhm.
at this point, because I have people like him behind me.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. One of the things our audience is going to notice too is almost every single expert I've interviewed has said, you and I had the same mentor at the time. And it's so funny because I wonder if people are like, who's that mentor?
Who's that person?
There's several, like, we won't mention who the mentor is, but yeah, almost everyone who has been speaking on this series, we have been under the same mentorship at the same time. And there have been several different mentors because as you grow, you require different types and different levels of mentorship in different areas. So what's it been like for you to have mentors and to be a mentor?
Oh, that's a great question. Before I answer that though, can I go back to the last one for just a minute?
Yes, of course.
There's something I still want to say about that, because we were talking about at the moment that I broke away, but there was a moment that really led up to that moment that I think was pivotal in my courage to make that break. And that was right after I said that I was going to start my business. That meant that I had to leave my position. Now, I continued to work what we call PRN, just as needed. That was the thing that I did for the next couple of years, straddling both worlds. But here's the thing, Kellee, when I left my full-time position, I got a severance check and it was covered like 3 months of our living expenses. Well, everybody says you can build a 6-figure business in 6 months or less. So I made that check last about 4 months, even though it was only 3 months. I squeaked it. I made it stretch as far as we could. And we were coming to the end of that and our house payment was due. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to make this house payment. Like, the money's gone. And the business at that point still was not making enough to pay the business and myself. And I just remember thinking, okay, here we go, right? It's that worst case scenario that was playing out in my head, and I'm going to be a failure, and we're going to, not be able to pay our mortgage and all this stuff. And I'll never forget, it was about a week before that mortgage was due, and I got a phone call. And the person on the other end of that line said, "Mrs. Lavelock." And I said, "Yes." They said, "This is so-and-so from your tax preparation company." And they said, "There's been a mistake on your taxes. And within the next couple of days, you're going to be receiving $5,000 in your bank account." And that was one of those moments where I knew God had my back. That was one of those moments that I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. I've made the right decision and he's got my back. He's going to help me even when things look dire. And so then when it came time to make that final break, I had confidence because that wasn't an isolated event. There were multiple times over the next couple of years where things showed up, resources showed up, people showed up, money showed up that I needed to keep this endeavor moving forward. And it always showed up. And so it grew my confidence and grew my confidence and grew my confidence to the point where when it was time, it was like, okay, I'm ready to do this.
What I love about that story, Natalie, is that you didn't sit back and say, well, if this is meant to happen, God will make sure that the money shows up somehow. And I will just sit here and wait for that. Like, you were in the work, doing all the things. Like, I know you. I watched your journey up close and from a distance at different times. And so I think people really get to hear that, right? Like, yes, everything you needed always showed up in some way, shape, or form, often unexpectedly and from unexpected sources. But you didn't sit back with your arms crossed going, okay, God, if this is meant to happen, you'll show me. No. I'm waiting, right? So I think sometimes people do that. And then there's this thing called confirmation bias, which is, well, the money didn't show up, so that's God's way of telling me that I'm not supposed to do this business. I'm supposed to do this other thing. You've got to be hearing that. I've heard it.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it. And I've questioned it for myself before, even like,
Mhm.
what's the best decision, you know?
Right.
But one thing that you said in there that I think is really important is, there's a verse in the Bible that says, we will establish our plans. Man establishes the plans, but God directs the steps, which implies movement.
Yes.
Like he will direct the steps, but that implies you're stepping.
Yeah. If you're not walking, oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Great. So when I met you, and you and I clicked because, we were both speaking at an event, which was really super fun. And we just, it's just kind of how it works, right? Trust when you click with someone, there's a reason. And we took a walk and we went to dinner together, and you were sharing with me what you did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're an RN. You have this massive medical background. You've created curriculum for hospitals. Gee, I wonder if you could help me create my coach's certification training program. And you're like, this is so my wheelhouse. So that was what we worked together on, but that was all the way back in 2020. So that was a good couple of years ago. Share with us how your business has developed, because I know that you do curriculum development for other coaches, but you now do so much more than that.
Yeah. So really, I started out like clients like you, like I just can't tell you how much I love working with clients like you and doing those types of projects, because you truly are an expert in what you do and you know what you know. And so I get to just come along and make sure that other people have the best path possible to gain that expertise that you already have. Like you're already doing all of the things. I just come along and help lay out that little bread trail, right? That breadcrumb trail, so that it's somebody close to me a few weeks ago said, I'm ready to move from success to significance. Like I've already
Mm.
had success and now I'm ready to move into a significance. And those are the people that I absolutely love working with, because it's about, now we're creating an army to build out your legacy, right?
Mm.
It's no longer about just me being on the hamster wheel trying to get this thing going. It's about, I've built this thing that's going to impact so many other lives. How do I get this out there and start sharing it with other people? And so
So let
doing
me
the
let me just pause there for a second, because I want to repeat something that you just said. For those of you who are, you're already coaching clients yourself. You might have private coaching, you might have some groups that you're coaching, retreats you're doing, whatever. You will probably come to a place where you realize the next level for you is your legacy project. And so what you just said, Natalie, I just wanted to pause there, because for me, coaching other coaches to serve a bigger audience, it's like you can only reach so many people yourself. You can only talk to so many people yourself. At some point, you're going to probably get that feeling of like, I want this in the hands of more people. And I'm the bottleneck holding it back unless I build I don't necessarily like to use the word army. There's got to be our posse or team, whatever. Ours is called Team Freedom. But that was what you and I created together was, okay, this next level is this is your legacy project. So many of our audience members are probably at that place where, like you could even be on the fast track to burnout if you have not leveraged not only your time, but if you're not in the creation or the delivery of your legacy project. So I wanted to pause you there, because I really think that's a zone of genius where you shine, where there are a lot of business coaches who really, that's not their skill set. It's not their passion. It's really not what they necessarily do. So can you say more about that, the value of that, and how you go about it?
Oh my goodness.
I know,
I
right?
I
You're like, "Ah, here we go."
I don't know how you put a value on that, because it's the thing that ultimately changes the world. It's the thing that lives on after you. And so, when you've come to that place where it's no longer about you, it's about what am I creating to continue on, even if I'm not the person able to deliver it, right? And
Yeah.
I just think that there is something special and there's something beautiful about that. And there's something unique about working with business owners who are in that place, who are
Yeah.
in that space.
And by the way, for some of you are like, oh, well, I have to wait until I've done private and group, and I have to wait till I'm making a certain amount. I got to wait, 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 wait. I look back and I think, had I started with my legacy project, my reach and my impact would be so much greater today. But I held back with I'm not ready for that. I've got to coach everyone myself first. Like, I really have been like a snail, guys. I'm like 20. I don't even know how many years. I haven't had a job in like 30 years, but I mean, I've been at this and specifically doing online coaching and retreats since 2014. Like, this isn't a new thing. And I was the one holding it back because I just thought I'm not ready. So here's something I want to share with you, Natalie, and I know you're going to get like how big this was for me. Like, this very recently, one of my mentors, who is my writing mentor, sent me on a field trip. She sent me to the Walt Disney Museum in San Francisco. That was my assignment. Go to the Walt Disney Museum, walk through it. She didn't tell me what I was going to get from that. Here's what I got from that. Walt Disney and I were not on on this planet alive at the same time. Walt Disney died before he died in December of 1966. Well, wait a second. So I think, yeah. Anyway, whatever. I was born in July of 1966. Okay, so maybe we're on the planet for a few months at the same time. So Walt Disney never impacted me as when he was alive. Walt Disney, however, has impacted and influenced my entire life and my children and my grandchildren after his death.
Mm-hmm.
So what I recognize is like, oh my God, like how short-sighted I've been, how small my vision has been, and also how big my ego has been, thinking I must be the one to deliver it, or nobody could do it the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, many people will be doing it better than I'm doing it. So, I just wanted to share that with you, Natalie, because it's like, for those of you, like, if you really need to grasp onto like what is a legacy, read the story of Walt Disney.
Mm.
Okay. Sorry to like, I hope that wasn't a segue off. It was just like, just that
No.
word, so powerful.
Yeah. And, Kellee, I do know that, there is a right time to do things in your business, both
Mhm.
with where you are financially, where you are emotionally, where you are in with your family, talking about the balance of wealth and understanding the seasons of life that we're in. And for many people, they see that legacy project and they're like, I want to do it, just not yet, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe it's not the right stage of business, or whatever that is. So it's kind of one of those, if you know that it's time, don't delay. And if you also have the wisdom and you're saying it's not time, the next step for most people is to build their group coaching program.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Here's where mentoring comes in. Don't try to make these decisions for yourself because you don't know what you don't know about business acumen in general, right? I have mentors. I have a business coach. I have a writing mentor, and I have a fitness coach, and I have a therapist. That's 4 people guiding me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think too often, like, entrepreneurs think they need to be they get stuck in this, what should I do next? It's like, don't do that to yourself. Ask someone with a lot of experience, such as yourself, Natalie. So, you've expanded out into business coaching, but it's faith-based business coaching. So in addition to helping people with curriculum and legacy projects, where do you see your biggest strength, your greatest strength?
Oh, Kellee, if you knew what was coming in January of next year. So really, I think for those people that are watching this that understand like the prophetic, I was on an airplane and I was going through this study a few years ago, and God really spoke to my heart through that study. There's been two things that I feel like God has called me. The first one is what I got out of that experience on the airplane, where he said, Natalie, you're a shepherd of purpose. So one of my greatest strengths is coming alongside someone who's on a big mission, has a big purpose, and helping them shepherd that thing that they've been called to do. And that's part of the reason why I don't just focus on being a program development person, is because people were coming to me and they're like, okay, great, I have this, but now what do I do with it? Where do I go? How do I take it out to the masses, right? And so I started to realize that the scope of what I was offering my clients was actually much bigger than just program development, even though that really was my trained skill of expertise. I think really one of the biggest things that I bring is reconnecting successful business owners who, have a profession of faith of some kind, but it's almost siloed, right? It's a Sunday thing, or it's a Wednesday thing, or it's a Saturday night thing, or whatever. And even though I'm this, spiritual, faithful person, it almost exists in that silo. And so one of the things that I'm able to do is help people bridge that gap and reconnect their business to the heart of God, so that they're operating fully in who God put them on this earth to be and who he's called them to be, and allow that to be expressed through their business.
Y'all heard that?
She's like, shoot, okay, let me
No,
give you a
I
little.
got it. I was like, wow, that was like one of the most well articulated mission statements I've ever heard. When you speak, Natalie, it's like there are just times when I'm like, I just let stuff sink in. Doesn't mean I'm not understanding. It means things are sinking in, and no clarification needed. Whew, okay. I just think this is super powerful. And what I'm loving so much about this series, the Permission to Thrive docuseries, is you and every other expert I have interviewed is really bringing your heart and your authenticity and what I'm feeling. And I think where I'm getting like the whoo is like, because I've known so many of you as well for so long, it's like we're not holding back anymore. We're not hiding anymore. We're not sugarcoating and leaving things out and trying to like make it sound right or sound good. Like we're just coming out, whatever that means to you, right?
Yeah. And Kellee, here's the thing. We can get so busy and distracted, or focus on, the agenda of the day, that we forget how much our life really matters. We forget that every second is sacred. And, what are we doing with the seconds that we've been given? Because I believe that your business, whether it's coaching, consulting, shoe store, jewelry store, whatever that is, the programs, the products, the services that you have to offer, they're a lifeline to someone in need. Whether it's the
Amen.
person coming through
Absolutely.
your door, whether it's the employee working right beside you, like your business is a lifeline to someone. And, you're talking about we're not holding back anymore. Well, by golly, it is time to step up. It is time for people to take their own leap of faith, get over yourself, do the thing that you're being called to do, and get out there and make those seconds matter, because you don't
Yeah.
get them back.
No. Yeah. And one of the things that we all know, I think if we really were to look at it honestly, if you were to ask yourself, what is the bottleneck standing between me and me being my biggest, greatest, most, the word audacious comes to me. That was a word given to me by one of my mentors, was audacity, audacity, more audacity. And I was like, but I feel like I'm already kind of like out there, and people can see things about you that you can't see for yourself. That's why mentors are so important. So my perception of myself is that I'm out there, I'm speaking my truth, I'm going for it. And the perception or the experience of my mentor was, no, you're not. You're waiting for permission. You're
Mm.
still like making sure you're doing it right before you actually just do it. Um, and you're very polite, and a lot of the things that you really believe, you just choose to keep that to yourself. That's not being audacious. That's not risky. And so, like, it's not about the number of Facebook lives you do. It's about what you say and what you bring to the table every time you're in front of people, right? So we're no longer in the era of like more content, just get it out there, say whatever, who cares? Just be in front of people everywhere all the time. I totally disagree with that. I think it's like bringing your whole self every time, as much as you can, as much as your whole self you're capable of bringing in that moment, which is not always going to be the same. But I think we're so far beyond, like, I want to call it the false authenticity and the false vulnerability, that like we could all see through that anyway, right? Like, it's not about getting on Facebook Live and crying to show us that you're authentic. It's like, bring your boldness, bring your truth, bring who you are, right? Maybe you'll
It,
cry,
it,
maybe you'll
it
laugh.
is. And Kellee, at the same time, this hints a little bit about what we were talking about earlier. As women, there are certain things that we've been taught to be polite and to, blah blah blah, whatever, all the things. And you layer upon that those of us who have people pleasing tendencies, that
Mhm.
want to keep the peace, that want everybody around us to be happy. Da, 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 da. That is dangerous. To go out on a public platform and fully speak your mind and fully express what you think and what you feel, because it's coming back at you.
Yeah,
It's
somebody's
it's
somebody
coming.
somebody is not going to like what you say. And very
Somebody's not
often
going to
it'll
like it.
be a very close friend or a family member.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just true. But there's a difference between being authentic and being mean. Like, we're
Oh,
not
totally.
suggesting you get out and be mean, but
No.
like being authentic is just taking a risk and a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how much and I brought that up because I know how much you support your clients in doing just that. And I have found that, especially in the faith-based community of entrepreneurs, that, I mean, there are some entrepreneurs that completely even hold back the fact that they're Christian, or that they're Muslim, or that they're whatever, right? Whatever their faith happens to be, they do compartmentalize it, and they're like, I'll talk all about business and personal development and all that, but I'm not going to mention God, or I'm not going to mention, Jesus, or I'm not going to mention Muhammad. Or it's like, but that's not bringing your whole self to the table.
Yeah. Well, and Kellee, what have we always been told is not appropriate to talk about? Religion and politics,
And money.
right? Those and money.
And
Those are the things
money.
you're not supposed to talk about, right? And because we don't talk about them, we've also lost the ability to have conversations that don't escalate to the place of being nasty
Yeah.
about those things when we do have those conversations. Like, we
Mm,
don't talk about it because we don't have the emotional intelligence and the self-control to have a conversation without setting off
Yeah.
fireworks, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, at least in the people that I'm around, something that they want. They want to be able to have conversations about real things with people who are different from themselves,
Hmm.
and be able to navigate those conversations in a way that honors both parties. And you're not trying to change somebody's mind, you're just trying to walk in someone else's shoes for a minute. That's the best way I can explain it. Like, what does the
Mm.
world look like through your eye?
Mm. So good. So good. Like, I mean, there's just so many things we could talk about that branch into, like, which we won't do. Because I would love for you to share your free gift offer, but like we could branch into the other, areas of holistic living, which is like, translate this now, like using your business as a vehicle for transformation, translate all of the skill building that you will acquire into like your relationships and conversations with your spouses and your friends and your kids. It's like me skilling up in my leadership as an entrepreneur and a businesswoman has definitely had incredible positive impacts on the people who are closest to me. So it's not just to serve clients, it serves everyone in your family and in your community. So this is just bigger than like the problem you solve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beautiful thing about most people that I work with, is they get it. They get it that, yeah, there's a thing I'm doing, and this thing supports my family, and
Mhm.
I like doing it, and I like sharing my skill set and the things that I'm passionate about through it. But they don't get hung up on that. They see it through the lens of, I'm doing this because I want someone else to experience what I've experienced. I want someone else, their life, to be enriched because of what I have to. It all goes back to, I do this talk about, all the different parts of the body, right? Well,
Mhm.
what happens if you don't have a big toe? You struggle with balance. What happens if you don't have an ear? You can't hear. So each one of us is a different member of the greater body, and the body only functions in its wholeness and its wellness when each one of those members are showing up with their unique gifts and contributing to the greater body.
Yet again, I just let it sink in. Natalie. Oh my God. Natalie Lavelock, faith-based business coach. Natalie has a free gift for you guys. I know you've been like, what is it? Natalie is offering a complimentary leap of faith one-on-one coaching session with her. So Natalie, tell us a little bit about that, guys. The link to access Natalie's calendar is on the expert email that you received where you accessed this interview. So go back, click the link, and you'll be able to get on Natalie's calendar. Tell us what that might look like for people.
Sure. So Kellee, I know a lot of people, you know, they're very creative. A lot of the coaches and the speakers that I work with, they're very creative. And so they have ideas about, what is this next big thing that I can do? And what's the reality of getting that implemented, right? How do I bring this thing to life? And so when we do the Leap of Faith coaching call, it's about you being able to say yes to that big thing, knowing exactly what it's going to take, what it's going to look like for you, and the impact that you're going to be able to create, the significance that you're going to be able to leave with people when you have that up and going and up and running. And so this is not, I'm just going to be honest with you, this is not a disguised sales
Mhm.
call. This
Mhm.
is a coaching call that's going to help you find the courage you need to say yes and take the step towards building that program or product that's running around back here, and you're just like, I don't know. So that's what
Yeah,
the call's for. If you decide you want to work with me after that, we'll set up another call and we'll talk about what that will look like later. So be
that's
sure.
fabulous.
Yeah, exactly.
So can I share what value you brought for me?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as a human design manifester and a very creative person who is also very disorganized by other people's standards. For years, you guys, I delivered my programs sort of like without a lot of I'm not someone who sends a lot of like downloadable stuff, or I wasn't giving people like a structured format to follow. And a lot of the frustration my clients were experiencing, which they weren't really voicing it to me because they don't always tell you that, but I may not be someone who needs structure and a pathway. I'm not someone who might need to know, like, okay, what are we doing 2 months from now? But most people are that way.
Mhm.
I'm unusual that way. So I thought everyone learns the way I do. Like, we just like stay on the step you're on was my thing, right? What I didn't realize is I attract a lot of highly analytical, very science-minded, structured people into my coaches training program. And so what you provided for me, number one, was a workbook. And oh my gosh, my clients are like, what? We have a workbook to follow? Like, you never give us anything on paper. It's just the way I would deliver. As you can tell, I have a very emotional throat. So I speak. I teach by speaking. If you want something on paper, most people would have to ask me, can you write that down? Or can you put that in an email? Because I can't remember anything you said. And you also helped me to organize my brain, which is, okay, what do you want them to learn in the first month? What do you want them to learn? How is this build on itself? And you helped me create this whole capstone project. And we did it really quickly because I had all the content in my
Mhm.
head, and you're like, oh, this is a great way to organize it. It's organized. It's ready for your clients. My clients were like, oh my gosh, now this program actually feels like a high level, high ticket program, which it is, but it didn't feel that way unless they had like, they need something, right? They need a roadmap. So I just wanted to share with our audience, like, if you're where I was in your coaching, where you have not had the time to organize what you're giving your clients, like, it will dramatically improve your client's experience with you, which, by the way, increases the value, which allows you to feel better about the investment that you're expecting from them, and the investment that they are, exchanging with you for the value of your program.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Kelly, but I don't there is nothing that makes me feel better than when I have a client who's worked with me and they're getting little wins along the way, right? And we reach that milestone where they've come to the end of their program and they're like, "What's next?"
What's next? Yeah.
Like, "I want to do the next thing with you because this has helped me so much. I want to do the next thing." Like,
Right.
that is a tremendous compliment. And we can go down the, how that helps lower marketing costs and blah 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 blah. We can talk about all that stuff, but it's the impact that you've had on someone's life, and they experience such value and transformation through the work they did with you, that there is nobody else out there for them.
Yeah.
They want more of what you have to bring to the table, and that
Exactly. They want the
no
next
better compliment.
level, and they want it from you. That's the thing. It's like, don't get hung. I mean, we're going to have to end this interview, but it's like, for people who are getting hung up on anywhere and like the, yeah, but so many people do what I do that it's like, there's just no room for me. You and I both know, Natalie, that your clients will come to you and then they will want the next step, and they're going to want it. Not all of them. Many of them, though, they're going to want your next step, and they're only going to want it from you. They
Mhm.
don't want to go have to find it from someone else that they don't already trust and love, and they want to grab onto your kite and be flying it with you. So
Yeah.
create a legacy project where they can jump on the kite and hang on and go with you.
Kelly, I truly believe that when done right, your coaching programs, your signature programs are as unique to you as your own signature.
Oh yeah,
No
100%.
one
So I don't
else.
worry about people stealing stuff.
No, no one else has your signature. No one else writes the way you do, signs the way you do, dots and crosses the T's and the Y's the way that you do. Same thing with your coaching programs. When done properly, your coaching programs are going to be so unique that no one out there can replicate what you bring to the table.
Boom. I love it. Okay, we have gotten to the end of the hour, so we're going to get to end this interview. Thank you so much, spiritual business coach Natalie Lavelock. I thank you so much for being part of the Wealth Builder edition of the Permission to Thrive docuseries, and I can't wait to see what's coming from you in January. So very exciting news. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kellee.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Welcome.